Hi guys, Chris here with Super Savvy Travelers. Hey, first, before I do anything, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of really important information coming up. So people have been asking me about flipping houses in Italy. Now, Pete and I, before we went to Italy and started doing what we did there, we were flipping houses with our friend Lisa Galt here in the United States, here in California. And we had a lot of fun. Oh gosh, we love doing it. So much fun, especially with Lisa. By the way, Lisa is a fabulous real estate agent in San Jose, California. If you're looking for a property there, go see her. She is miraculous. Anyway, so we did a lot of that. And then when we got to Italy, we started going, we know all these people. We know the architect. We were renovating already. And people, our friends had started coming over and going, look, we want to buy a property, so we were touring with friends. And I remember one day I was touring with my one friend, and we toured through this property in Praia Mare. It was up on the hill, so you got these spectacular views. And we walked in, and this was with Ivan Di Luca. He's one of our favorite guys down there. And he opened up the balcony doors, and the view was of the Dino Island in Praia Mare and that gorgeous blue sea that just stretched out to eternity. And I looked, and the place was in good shape. I mean, it didn't really need anything immediately. Like somebody could, move into it right away. And the price was ridiculous. And I kept going, you need to get this. You need to get it. Don't look at anything else. Just get it. She didn't get it. So we did. We bought it. It was a true no-brainer. I mean, we could see that. And basically, I think Pete was traveling or something. And I said, this one's a no-brainer, Pete. We need to do it. And luckily, Pete is always on board with any wild-haired scheme that I have and said, okay, let's go. So we did. And I'll tell you something, that one turned out to be actually a really lucrative deal because we got in for next to nothing. We set it up. We started renting it out right away. And as we made rental income, we would put it back into the property and do some little fix-ups. We put new tiles on the balconies, actually terrace. It was a huge terrace. And we did all kinds of things, put in new windows, put in new shutters, an awning to make it really comfortable and make it a really beautiful rental property. And then we turned around and sold it. The reason we sold it was because it was far away from where we were, and it was a lot of work to go back and forth. So we said, okay, we'll sell it. We had Casa Cristina coming online, which is our B&B in Santa Monica Tilao that we renovated. And, we just decided, look, we need to streamline our lives a little bit. And so we sold it, and we did well on the sale because we put value in it. We had built up a business around it. And so the person buying it got, I think, a good deal, despite the fact that we did well as well. It was a win-win for everybody. So, basically what you're going to look for, the first thing you're going to look for is the location of the house. Like, you need to make sure it's someplace people want to go, right? Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time renting it, and you're going to have a hard time selling it. Now, in this particular situation, this was in Praia Mare, which is a beautiful place down in Calabria. It was up on a hill, so it had those spectacular views. It wasn't that far from the city center. It was very close to the beaches, very popular with tourists. In August, that whole stretch of Calabria turns into just a tourist zone. It's, what it reminds me of? The beaches down there. When you have hot dogs and they're all lined up on the grill, right? You can't even see the grill through them, and then you turn them over with the tongs. That's what the bodies look like on the beaches in Calabria in August. It's crazy. But it's a built-in tourist market. We didn't even have to advertise it. It was booked all August and most of July, and sometimes even September. And when we started to have clients come over that needed residency, we booked it long-term for them so that they could get their residency and have a long-term rental contract. So it turned out to be a very lucrative situation. Now, of course, the location was ideal. The attractions were ideal. As far as renovation costs, there wasn't really that much we had to do. Initially, we didn't do anything. Later, we redid the terraces. We put in new windows, new awnings, all of those things to make it more comfortable. But it really didn't take anything. And we could use a handyman because we didn't need permits for any of that stuff. If you're going into a place with an idea that you're going to renovate it, you're going to need a good renovation team. And you need a team that's going to work efficiently, they're going to work quickly, and they're going to be very aware of what you're trying to do and be fully on board with that. Now, lucky for you, we have great teams. We have them in Puglia, we have them in Calabria, and we have them in Tuscany. That part of it is actually taken care of. One caveat I would say on that is if you're going into an area where everybody's also going at the same time, like we had in Santa Domenica, there was a backlog, I'll be honest, a backlog of renovations. Despite the fact that Antonella was bringing in people from the outside, an hour away, they were driving in to handle all the renovations that we had in Santa Domenica Talao. It was crazy. But I would make sure, you know, before you go in, that you look at the situation and go, are these guys going to be able to do it quickly? Because if you miss one summer, that's a lot of money in Calabria. Most of your money is made in August and July. So if you miss that, you're going to be out money. You've got carrying costs, which are taxes and things like that. Mostly what you might lose out on is opportunity costs, because like I said, if you miss a summer, you're out of a lot of money. So the teams are super important. The communication with the teams, making sure everything's going efficiently, that you're getting updates regularly and that kind of thing, and that they stick to the timelines. Now, another thing is the cost to purchase. Like I said, this place that we bought was such a no-brainer because it was ridiculously inexpensive. Even at that time, before Calabria really started booming and all our guys started coming over, it was still a great price. And the owner was motivated and they needed to sell. So we walked in and we bought it. I don't even think we negotiated on the price because it was crazy. It was crazy. That was a really good purchase. We've had other great purchases as well. And as I said, we have Casa Cristina in Santa Domenica Talao, which was a ruin that we bought and renovated, and it's gorgeous. So if you need accommodations in Santa Domenica, let us know. Okay, what are your costs to purchase? You've got Notaio's fees. Now the Notaio, if you don't know, is the guy who works on behalf of the state to make sure that the Italian real estate law is carried out to the letter. Now, if you don't use a Notaio on the quote-unquote purchase, you don't own the property. It's as simple as that. He's the guy that makes sure all the taxes gets paid. He's the guy that makes sure that the contracts are carried out. And he's the guy that records your deeds. So like I said, if you don't use a Notaio, you're out. Now you have his fees, which could be about $1,200 to say $3,000, maybe more if it's a very high luxury property. Taxes. If it's a second home, if you're using it to flip or as a rental or whatever, it will be your second home. You're going to pay 9% of the cadastral value of the property. Now, the cadastral value is the value assigned to the property for tax purposes. It's not the market value, and it doesn't change when the property changes hands. So the cadastral value generally is a lot less than the market value, because the market can go up and the cadastral value stays the same. A good example is, let's say you buy a house for 100,000 euros and the cadastral values might be, you know, way less. I mean, in some cases like 10 to 12,000 euros, in some cases even less. It's crazy. So so understand the difference between cadastral value and market value, and that's important when you come to the taxes, because we talked about the prima casa, which means you're going to have it as a residence, you're going to live there, which wouldn't apply for you if you're going to do a flip. That's usually 2% of the cadastral value. For a second house, which is probably going to apply to you, it's 9% of the cadastral value. However, if you buy a brand new construction, it's 22% of the market value. Okay, so you have some pretty significant tax differences there, and you need to know that going in. Again, this is one of the ways that you could lose your shirt. Now, in addition, you have other fees, stamp fees, recording costs, this and that, you know, that usually comes out to maybe 500 to 1,000 euros for all those ancillary fees. So you have to factor that in. You got to crunch numbers. As you know, if you're a flipper and you've done these things, you got to crunch numbers. Costs to renovate. Okay, now let's just totally avoid what I call the underwear factor, right? Like if you're buying an outfit to go to the Met Gala or something like that, and you have $1,000 to spend, you're not going to spend $700 on underwear. Okay, that would be a bad plan. Why? Because nobody sees it. Nobody cares about it. When somebody comes in to buy a house, they're assuming that the roof is good. They're assuming that the structure is in good shape. You know, but if you go in and unless you get it for like really nothing, like you negotiate way down, you go, okay, this roof needs to be done. We need to cut 40,000 euros off the price. That may be an option, but you also have to factor in your time factor. you know, how long is it going to take to get this 40,000 euro roof? I wouldn't do it. If you're going to go flip something or flip it and rent it or whatever, you need quick. I wouldn't do roofs. I wouldn't do foundations. I wouldn't do lesions in the wall that require that sandwiching thing that they do. You know, I would do tile, new bathroom fixtures without moving bathrooms around. Don't take down any walls. You know, find a place that's already really nice. And if you can find floors that maybe you do a little shine up or they're already in good condition, that's a huge thing too. In addition, you're going to have to do cleaning after all of this work. And I'll tell you something, floors and cleaning, oh my gosh, what a mess. What a mess. And it's horrible. If you can avoid that, avoid it. Remember, $700 for underwear, not a plan. $100 for underwear? Maybe so. Maybe. We'll see. Anyway, that's my recommendation on the renovation costs. Now, you have to also go down to the material suppliers, see what they have. And I will tell you that we went down to Fratelli Mele in Calabria many times with clients. They know us. They treat me like a queen when I go in there. Oh, Signora, you want some coffee? You know, and even if they have clients, they leave their clients and they come to me because we sent them so much business, which I appreciate. I don't need that, but I appreciate it. That also translates into things like transparency and telling me the best values that they have, you know, or a way to maybe cut some money off the cost of a renovation so that you still have something very beautiful, very fresh, very new, but you're not paying the earth for it. So, you know, you can buy these beautiful brand new toilets that look gorgeous and they're very inexpensive. You just have to make sure that your material supplier knows going in that what you want is the rock bottom price, but still quality and beautiful materials. And if you do that, and you work very closely with them, you'll be able to find materials for not that much money that look gorgeous. And all our renovations have been that way. We've renovated, we've got super high quality materials, but we didn't pay the earth for them because they weren't like trendy designs or whatever. So those are things to think about. Now, selling costs. You go to sell, you're going to have certain costs. You have to have the scheda catastale, which is the floor plans. They have to be updated before you sell, which is probably about $1,200 if you need a major thing. Some of them might not even need to be updated. You have to check that with your architect. Also, the APE, which is the energy statement, that needs to be updated as well, especially if you've done things like put in new windows and air conditioning and heating units and that kind of thing. If you've improved a property, chances are you've upgraded it from, you know, the lowest category on the energy statement to a higher category, which is also a selling point. Okay, let's talk about rental income, because the ideal scene down there, you know, in Calabria or wherever in Italy is to buy a property, put some money into it, and create a lot of equity with a little bit of money and time, and then also do the rental thing. Now, if you get a lot of equity in it and you sell it for a lot more than you bought it for, if you do that within 5 years, you're going to have to pay capital gains tax. That's why you want to rent it out in between. First of all, you're making money as, you know, as a rental unit, and probably really good money if you are wise on how you went in, how you chose your property, how you chose your materials, and how you chose your teams. You know, you could be doing very well with rental income if you handle it properly too. There's a lot that goes into that. You know, if you have property management, you have somebody cleaning, you have somebody doing this, that, and the other, you can suddenly find there's no money left over at the end of that for you. So all of those things, like I said, crunch numbers on that. But the rental market is actually a very good market right now, especially for short-term rentals. And I'll tell you why. They've always been hot. But recently, as of January 2025, you have to have a CHIN number in order to rent out your property short-term. A CHIN number is basically a number that's assigned to your unit that's used to track for taxes and things like that. Now, why is this important? Number one, it levels the playing field. Now, we as Super Savvy, we went in, we have our business over there. We always did things legally. We always paid taxes, but we had a lot of competition from people who didn't. They just ran under the radar and they did what we call black money over there. They made money, they didn't pay taxes, they didn't report anything, and honestly, it wasn't fair. Now, when we saw the CHIN regulations come in January, in Santa Dominica Talao, most of those properties came off the market. A lot of these people don't want people looking too close at what they've been doing in the past and their previous taxes and money that they made, so they've opted out of the rental market. Others just don't want to deal with the pain in the butt factor of trying to get a CHIN number, which is, you know, a bureaucracy kind of thing, but it's doable and you can do it. And if you're going to do this kind of thing, you need to get up and running on how you do that. So with that, the rental market has become much more lucrative and a whole lot less competitive, and the playing field has been leveled, which we appreciate a lot, because like I said, our businesses, we do have short-term rentals, and we do have them under a business, and we do have to pay taxes and do everything legally, which can be very burdensome if you're competing against people who don't have to do that. So the first thing I would do is get a really good commercialista and have them help you with the taxes and all of the stuff that you're going to need to know about. Many of them can also pay your bills for you. We have Ivan Di Luca paying our bills out of Casabella. I don't know if he's booked up or not, but you can find commercialistas who will do that for you and take care of all of that, so that you don't have to worry about it, and you just go top up your account every year or half a year or whatever and make sure that that's going on. They will also advise you on tax situations and what kind of documentation and paperwork you need and that kind of thing. They may even be able to help you get your CHIN number, which is important because, you know, they know how these things work. Now, another thing about the CHIN number is that you cannot advertise on Airbnb or Booking.com or any of the vacation rental platforms without it. So you need to have it, unless you're going to do everything, like I said, black money, under the radar, word of mouth, and that kind of thing. But understand, you're taking a risk, because if you get caught renting out your short-term rental without a CHIN number, you can be fined a lot of money for that. So I would not recommend that. Definitely get your CHIN number up and running, and make sure it's all legal and everything else. Now, in order to get your CHIN number, you're going to need what's called a certificate of habitability. Habitability. I love to say that for some reason. Anyway, this certificate basically says your unit is habitable. You know, it's got the retrofits for earthquakes and this and that and the other thing. You're going to have to make sure you have fire extinguishers. You're going to have to make sure you have all of the things that make it habitable as a short-term rental. That is required for you to get the CHIN a lot of times. So understand that you need to get that. Now, when you're buying a place, make sure that they either have that or that you can get it, because sometimes it can be very, very difficult to retroactively get a certificate of habitability in an apartment complex. Now, in Calabria, back in the day, back in the 80s, there was another boom, right? Everybody went, oh my gosh, this whole thing exists. It all looks like the Amalfi Coast, and they all went there and they started buying properties. Europeans did. And as a result, you had people just putting up whatever in a hodgepodge fashion, and many of them were really, really crappily built. I'll just be honest. So again, you need to have your inspections before you move forward on all of these things. But in certain cases, it might be very difficult to get a certificate of habitability on a place that wasn't built well to start with. So I would make sure before you even buy the place that you are going to be able to get a certificate of habitability. And that is something you work with a geometra or your architect or your engineer to get that for you. Super important, guys. Taxes, it looks like for short-term rentals, if you're doing it as a vacation rental home owner, you've got what's called a Cedare secca, 21% flat tax. Very few deductions, but it's only 21%, which in California, that's great. Thank you for that. You know, it's something that you can count on. 21% of, you know, the money that you make off of that. There's also the hotel tax, which normally you ask your clients for. It's something that's done all over Italy. It could be $1 to $3 a head per night. Make sure you count that in. If you're not going to charge them for it, you're going to have to pay it yourself. So you just make sure that your prices for renting include that as well. Now, a super important thing is to, if you're looking at flipping or whatever, follow the trends and look for markets that are increasing. The last thing you want to do is go into a €1 Italian home village that has nobody there, no tourists, nothing, and then flip something and try to sell it. It's going to be ridiculous. I don't even know if you could do that. unless you went in and you boomed the town, kind of like we did with Santa Domenica. You boom the town and you get a lot of people coming in, and there's a lot of desire for these properties. And by the way, you just happen to have this beautifully renovated one that you already took care of the stress and the worry and the money and everything else, and it's available for you to move into, and it becomes an overwhelming no-brainer for somebody to come in and buy it. That's why you have to really choose your property carefully. Choose it in an area where people are going, choosing it in a market that's increasing, because then the wind is at your back, you know? The worst thing in California that we really had to be careful of when we were flipping is, you know, you buy something, but you never want to buy at the peak of market, because you're going to pay a lot of money and then the price goes down and you're lucky if you break even. Happily, we never ran into that because we are super savvy investors. Oh, by the way, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an engineer, architect, geometra, real estate agent in Italy. In California, yes, but not in Italy. Broker, commercialista. I'm none of those things. I've just flipped a lot of houses and done a lot of stuff in Italy. So it's all my personal observation, just so you know. Okay, so I think we went over all the important points, which is really find a good location, find something that everybody wants, follow the trends, crunch the numbers, all the numbers. And oh, by the way, when you find your new places in Italy, you're going to need artwork for your walls, which brings me to my beautiful lady back here, who I just finished, and he's really taking the internet by storm. I mean, everybody's been all over this one. And I do have the gallery opening up in Torretta di Siena in February, so you can come see and buy original arts, and you can also buy prints online. Follow me on Instagram at Chris Sobolev, and go check out my website, www.chrissobolev.com. There's a lot of really pretty stuff up there. And I think that you're going to want to buy it. The prints are very affordable, and they're also very beautiful. I've had rave reviews from clients in Italy who have bought the prints and have them all over their walls. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Don't go into this, you know, sort of half-cocked, okay? Make sure you do your research. Make sure you take our course so you understand about the buying and selling process. And it would behoove you to hire us to help you find your ideal properties and put you in touch with the best teams. So there you go, guys. Hope that helps. See you soon.